in 2016 and completed in 2017 by the prior administration. I'm just going to give a brief roll call, and then Mr. Varga will address the Open Public Meetings Act provision. Mr. Vakian?
Here.
Mr. Sinelli?
Here.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Here.
Mr. Jardine?
Here.
Mr. Poff is absent tonight, and I am here.
The meeting has been advertised as required in the CoStar on June 2nd, 2022, setting forth time, place, and items to be addressed in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
Thank you. What we've done is there is a brief agenda that provides some information as to the timeline and what has occurred over the past several years, in addition to the ordinances being adopted as required in 2016 and then 2017, and then the delay in the assessments, which unfortunately we can't address because it was done during the prior administration. So I'm just going to give a brief rundown of what has happened and the timeline for that. So the Sidewalk Improvement Project was authorized by Ordinance 2016-09, adopted by the Council on September 6, 2016.
Can you use your microphone? Sorry, we can't hear.
We can't hear you.
Amended by Ordinance 2017-20, adopted by the Council on September 5th, 2017. Program participants executed an agreement with the borough in which they authorized the specific work to be done. Participants were provided with an estimated cost thereof and advised of the repayment period at the time which, pursuant to the documents that were signed, indicated a 5-year repayment period, but which by ordinance is 10 years. So from the date of the first assessment, the date the first assessment bill goes out, you have 10 years to repay the amount that's due. Prior to the commencement of work by the contractor in November 2016, an information session was held for program participants, during which they were advised that all program costs, including engineering fees, would be apportioned among the participants. The contractor began work in November 2016 and completed work in April 2017. In late 2019 or early 2020, the administration was notified that the procedures to assess the cost of the improvements to the program participants had not been completed as required by statute and ordinance. Beginning in March 20, the borough engineer was then tasked with verifying the work that was done and reporting back to the council in January of 2020. Beginning in March of 2020, COVID lockdowns occurred, hampering the borough's ability to move forward with the statutory requirements to complete the assessment process. In the summer of 2021, the borough restarted the process of complying with the statutory requirements to assess the cost of the improvements to the program participants, including the preparation of the required mapping of the improvements as completed by the contractor. And then, in November of 2021, the commissioners of assessment were appointed. And so that basically gives you a little bit of history and a bit of the timeline that occurred and why things were possibly delayed. Right now, we have available for your review copies of the ordinances that were adopted in 2016 and 2017, the mapping that was prepared by the borough attorney, by the borough engineer, Leon Sabakian, and participant contracts, which we can provide to anyone who doesn't have one. So at this point, we'll open it up to questions. Mr. Varga, did you have any comments or?
I mean, the only comment that I really have right now, and I'll probably have to, I'm sorry.
Hello? Better? Can everybody hear me now? Sorry, I do this all the time. I forget to turn the mic on. So the only comment that I really do have to make, because I did hear some grumbling in terms of, and rightfully so, the length of time. This occurred in 2016, 2017, and I'm sure a lot of you were sitting here guessing, well, what was the delay? And truthfully, I don't like to point fingers. I don't want to point fingers, but I don't know why the prior administration didn't do anything. But now, as the borough attorney, my job is to ensure that the borough's liability isn't increased or that the borough isn't subject to additional liability, that our ability to bond isn't isn't interfered with, that our credit rating isn't interfered with, and what this requires is for us to perform the special assessment in accordance with the ordinance as drafted and as adopted by the previous administration in 2016 and subsequently amended in 2017. Now, I understand that there's, just from hearing some, receiving some letters and being copied on some letters, that some of the residents are concerned because they're about the engineering fees, and there's been some suggestion that they weren't informed of this. Well, the ordinance is quite clear in section 6, section 7A, and 7F that these fees would all be included and all combined as a total cost and assessed against the property owners which opted into the program. Now, I understand that there's questions about the ambiguity. Why weren't we informed immediately? Again, I wasn't there in 2016. I wasn't there in 2017. I can't apologize for what the previous administration did. I can just say that now I have to be the bad guy to the current administration and tell them that they're forced. They have to recoup and impose a special assessment in accordance with the ordinance because the previous statutory requirements weren't followed, and now we have to follow them now. So that's really my only comment that I wanted to add.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, would you just step up to the microphone and identify yourself, please? I did turn that one on.
Frank Calabrese. I live at 400, Frank Calabrese, I live at 400 13th Avenue. I was just wondering, are any accommodations made to people who have moved in after this happened? We're residents here only a year. We're still going to be assessed for what was done prior to our approval? You're right.
I'm recovering from bronchitis, so my lungs are completely shot right now. But unfortunately, no. This should have possibly been disclosed by the person who sold you your house. I can't necessarily give you legal advice, but it would be prudent to possibly contact an attorney to discuss it, because unfortunately I do represent you as a whole. I don't represent you guys, I represent the borough as a whole, so I can't tell you what to do. But it's possible that it should have been disclosed.
The previous owner passed away. It was an estate sale, so the person who probably was involved in this passed away. I mean, we're just hearing about this. Our letter came today. Sort of hit cold with this.
And I would be frustrated, truthfully, if I was in your shoes. It should have been disclosed. I know I've heard of residents that have had this information disclosed to them. I hope this is working. That had this disclosed to them, and they had money set aside in escrow. I'm certain that there's people that didn't have that situation occur. They didn't put money away in escrow because they weren't informed, and I'm certain, just by the way you're explaining yourself to me, sir, that didn't occur.
Right.
Again, I can't give you legal advice on how to proceed, but if you would like legal advice, I would suggest that you do contact counsel.
Okay. Thank you.
Like the ones who handle the closing.
I'm so sorry, sir.
Like the ones who handle our closing, because I'm in the same boat as him.
Yes, and sir, can we just have your name just so?
John Cobus, 601 15th Avenue.
Yes, Mr. Corbus, I would again suggest that you do speak with outside counsel, because I can't give you legal advice. I can just tell you the position that we're in now and what we have to do.
Hi, I'm Mike Hayes, 603 10th Ave. The work was never done on my property. I don't know who signed off on it, I did not, but it's easy to come and check it out. The work was never done.
One of the statutory requirements is that we have this meeting, and one of the benefits out of this meeting is to listen to comments like that, because someone went out in the field, made a measurement, observed something, and then recorded it in a tabulation. Frequently, properties are misidentified or recorded improperly, so by you telling us that, Frank and I will go out, verify it, and make modifications to whatever was done. So the best thing for us to do is to have your name, make sure we have it, have your address. We'll verify exactly what you said, which I'm sure is correct, and then modifications will be made.
Okay, I'm a
603
big
10th
fan of
Avenue.
the program, and I'd be happy to pay the fee if the work
We
was
appreciate
done.
it. 603 10th Avenue.
603 10th.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Irene McCann. I owned 529 8th Avenue for 51 years, and I sold it 2 years ago when my husband died. Just like this gentleman ahead of me, the work was never done. I just got a bill for $5,000 for work never done.
Okay.
I think Frank may have looked at it, I'm not sure.
Yes, I have your paperwork.
Okay, good.
Peter and Frank will go out and verify the information.
Too tall. John Falk, 506 11th Avenue. And I have a question about parts of the timeline. So this didn't happen in a vacuum. It's not like the plan participants ran to town hall and said, please repair my sidewalks. I think the town ran out and assessed all the sidewalks that needed repair in the town, sent letters to residents or homeowners and said, you're either going to have to repair your sidewalks or you're going to get fined or forced to do it. If, however, you want to, you can sign up for this plan and the town will get a bulk rate for you. So the people who got the bills signed up for the plan, but there's a ton of sidewalks in this town that were never repaired, and none of the people who didn't respond are being penalized in any way. I'm wondering what the timeline is for actually dealing with that. And I don't want to use the word coercion, but we were essentially told that if we didn't do this program, we were going to have to pay anyhow and do it on our own or we'd be fined. What happened to the other people? You walk around any block, and there's tons of sidewalks that I'm sure were marked on the map as sidewalks in need of repair that were never repaired. And as you said, this is 2016, 2017, and now 2022. So is there a timeline for that, or is the town sort of abandoned or reneged on that?
Well, the reality is, once we get through this process, then we'll have to look at the sidewalks that haven't been done.
Is that something that's planned?
Well, we're working incrementally in steps here. I mean, we understand that this has been delayed, and we're trying to get through this process first, and then we'll move on to the next step, which will be addressing some of the other issues.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Janice Keown Blackburn, 106 River Court. And Mrs. McCann just answered my first question. Our street has no sidewalks. We just had curbing done, so we were just charged for the curb, correctly, or correct?
Yes, you would have been only charged for the curbs.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, Michael Murphy, 414 14th Avenue.
Sorry, your address?
414 14th of Comfort Street. I guess I'm one of those guys that can't find my paperwork, so I would like to get a copy of what I signed back then in 2016. But my question is, I wanted to just hear what was the cost? How did you make this determination, the cost associated with the work? How was it individually assessed? Is it square footage? Because the number that I have on this letter is different from what I recollect receiving at that time.
There were two cost evaluations made, and we're just, again, going by the file information that we had. The first was an evaluation of the properties. So someone physically went out on the properties, made an assessment, and made a determination that areas of sidewalk or curb had to be replaced. A cost estimate was prepared, which we typically do for every job that we administer with the borough. That cost estimate would be based on a reasonable unit price if you were to go out to bid and anticipate a number of contractors to bid on a project. And what the borough's position was at the time was that, giving the opportunity, I know the process has been cumbersome, and I apologize for that. But the whole purpose behind it is that if the borough goes out to bid and gets a contractor to do many properties at the same time, the unit price is going to be significantly less than if you were to hire somebody to come to your house and do it for you. So a cost evaluation is made and an estimate is made, and that's what you were initially provided with. The final cost, which was given to you as the assessment, is exactly what the contractor charged on his bid. So the lowest bidder got the job, he came out and did the work, and it was a linear foot price for the curb, and it was a square yard price for the sidewalk and driveway.
And that would be contained in this?
It's in the spreadsheet that they prepared for each property.
So I will be able to determine what they use linear feet for my property.
Yes. And if you have a question, that's why we're here today. If you have a question on that, bring it to our attention. Frank and I will go out, verify it, maybe we'll even meet you there, and verify it, and then modify the assessment if it was done incorrectly.
Mr. Murphy, your property actually was estimated higher, you were charged less. So you could. I just showed, if I could show you.
As I said, I didn't have it.
So, you were initially estimated 31, 36, and you only charged 21, 13. And then you're 631 per year. And it's 27. That's how you got the number. Evidently, when they went there, they didn't do all the sidewalks. So,
No, they didn't.
they didn't have to do all of them because evidently the initial estimate was higher. It was $1,000 more.
I'm Evita Gaidosova from 825 12th Avenue. And my problem is actually the opposite. I was given an estimate for 3170 and I was just charged by the town 4140. It's almost $1,000 more.
Sorry. Well, unfortunately, it wasn't clearly explained that there were going to be additional costs that were accrued to the project. And that's basically why there might be a difference in what you were originally quoted and what you're being billed at this point in time.
But I should be honored the price that it was given to me.
The way the ordinance is written, and Mr. Varga explained that, the way the ordinance is written, the entire cost of the project is apportioned to those people who participated in the project. So there is an apportionment portion of the engineering fees that goes along with the actual cost of the construction.
My name is Maureen, and I'm representing Mary Steelman on 320 14th Avenue and 318 14th Avenue. And she has two properties, and we'd like to see the original contract. We got bills. The littler property is being charged more than the bigger property, and we don't know why. And I wanted to know if the prices are from 2018 or 16 when we originally got it, or are you adding 22 prices?
No, the prices are what the contractor billed the borough for, and which the borough paid. And the only difference would be the additional assessment for the apportionment of the engineering fees.
Okay, so we can review the original contract and...
Yes.
Okay.
If we can, once we get done with the comment period, if you want to come back to the table and I can search through and get you your contract.
And it's 320 14th Avenue and 318.
And I don't know if this will make you feel better or not, but the engineering fees are not me being here tonight and not me assessing and looking at your properties that have already been completed. The engineering fees are simply associated with the design, bidding, really wasn't design, the bidding and the construction administration that was done back in 2016, 2017.
But if you go back out, but you're saying you're going out and look at
It's not, you're not going to be assessed. Your assessment won't go up. If Frank and I go out, we're not going to say, oh, we're going to add $25 to your bill because we have to go out. No, that's not going to happen. We're doing this to resolve
So
it.
you have to fix it.
Fix it in what way?
Well, it's cracked, broken, wherever you're looking at, that's what they want. And if it's not, if it wasn't fixed, something they're not paying you.
If it wasn't done, it's not going to be charged.
Well, you're not gonna do any more work.
Not this time. No, the contract's been closed out.
All right.
Yeah, that's the thing. So if we do another assessment program, which Lorraine and I would much rather not, but if we do another assessment program, we would certainly consider any of your concerns at that time.
Well, it goes back to what the other person said.
Yeah.
If they never did anything, and there's a lot of stuff that's really bad,
Okay.
and they didn't pay anything.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm paying for stuff I had done, and they're not being charged anything.
If it wasn't done, they would be charged. Yeah.
I'm just curious, were all you guys, were you part of this original one or not? At all?
No, none of us
I'm gonna put my, over here, I'm gonna put my pad over here for pens, just in case, just to accomplish that.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a comment here, kind of aside from all of your comments, because we hear you, and we don't want anyone in this room that wants an evaluation made not to have it done. It would be helpful to us if, I don't know if you want to use this sheet, if you have enough, if during the course of tonight, you would come up and provide your name and property address that the improvements were either made or not made on. And again, Frank and I will, if you want to put a phone number, we'll call you when we go out. If you don't put a phone number, we'll just go out and evaluate and make a determination exactly what you're saying. The work was either done, and it was done to the incorrect dimension and incorrect cost, or the work was not done, and there will be an alteration to the assessment value. And unfortunately, what you're saying is a good point. The work was not done, it was supposed to be done. What happens? And unfortunately, right now, what happens is the contract is complete, the contract is closed out. We really don't have.
It's going to be complete, didn't somebody check it to see that it was?
That's exactly what we were given, and we were given what we're talking to you about tonight. And we were given the numbers that the assessment was based on. Yeah, I know. So, you know, we'll give you history on that. Thanks.
Just to piggyback, for the people that do want to list their name and their address, I put a pad right here with some pens. I know I'm going to be writing down all the names and addresses as you guys go, but just for double safety, if you could just add your name and address to this pad, that would be great, just to really assist the staff in ensuring that every property that needs to be looked at is looked at. Thank you.
John Kovas, 601 15th Avenue. I'm kind of a little of both of what this gentleman just explained here. So I moved in 2017, so it was never disclosed to me. So thank you, attorney, for what you said earlier. I had to fill out an over request to get the paperwork, of which it said that 4 sidewalk slabs were replaced. I can verify, I took pictures. If you come out to my property, the only thing you can see that was replaced were maybe 2. That's it. Now, I'm also on 15th Avenue. They redid the curb as part of the grant that just took place last summer when they redid the pipes and everything there. So it doesn't look like, based on the diagram, that any sidewalk was replaced back in 2016-17 there. So it looks like half the job was done. Also, from the assessment that you gave on the paperwork that I received through the over request, what you charged me, or what the estimate was to what I'm getting now in the bill, is about 30% higher. So, I mean, that's almost a third in fees higher than what was originally assessed.
Okay, I think your situation would warrant you being there when Frank and I came out to your property. And I'm sure that we can resolve it by meeting with you. Our company did the 15th Avenue project.
Okay.
So we know what was done, and we know there was an assessment. There was not an assessment associated with it.
Yeah. Okay.
So the work would only be on the opposite side.
And just one comment on you, I don't come to the council meetings, I don't get up and speak, but just from what I noticed from the beginning, I'm hearing a lot of blame to the previous administration, but it's 6 years and the current administration has been here for 3, so you own half of it. So to be throwing blame on this, I think, you know, most people have been around here for longer than me, obviously. I think you need to do what's right for the residents and not look to, you know, throw stones at another administration. Just my opinion.
My name is Tom Slane, 301 11th Avenue. In the original agreement that I signed back in 2016, I have a $600 increase, okay, which I'm sure, you know, you'll tell me why. But do you have a list of all the different properties and how each property, individual property, their assessment in 2016 is different from what the letters we received just recently? But the gentleman to the left here is going to be assessed less. So I would think that you should give a list to us of all the properties and tell us what they were assessed in 2016 and what they're currently being assessed for tonight at this meeting.
The difference in the assessment, unless there was a change in the estimated amount of linear feet that was.
Please get close to the microphone. Please, you have to get closer to it.
What I was going to say was the change in cost that you're being charged, that's being assessed to your property, is based on the cost of the improvement plus the apportionment of the engineering fees that went along with the completion of the project.
I don't understand why you need an engineer to do cement work in front of the house, number one. And secondly, you haven't answered my question. Are you going to give us a list of all the properties that were part of
We'll
the
give you a
program?
list we'll give you the information for your property, sir.
But why would you give it information of all the properties? Why are some people going to be assessed less, while other people are going to be assessed more?
Just jump in here. On the ordinance 2017-20 and 2017-16, there is a list, 2016-09, there is a list of all the properties that were supposed to be included in the improvement, so that will be there. In terms of what everybody is charging, what all the tax assessments are, you can certainly make a Oprah request for it. I'm not entirely certain if other people's information would be subject to disclosure, but it's something that I would have to confirm. I don't want to say yes or no. I understand you want to be able to have it, but I don't know. I have to double check that, because your information you're entitled to, absolutely. But the gentleman to your left, I can't tell you for a fact that you're entitled to his information under Oprah. So I'd have to just double check.
Okay, well, I just think it would be helpful.
Your feet, I think, is an answer to this question. That's the basis that you assessed. That's how I would answer it. Your linear feet may be
I'm happy for you. I mean, I'm not, good for you.
No, you will.
But I mean, I don't understand why, and you said you'll look into it, that this can't be, all these properties can't be listed, what they originally were going to be charged for as per the agreement that we all signed, and what we're being charged now. We can't see the difference in each individual property. Makes sense to me. It should be part of, good government.
Essentially, the question. Oh, I'm sorry, say go.
Hi, Ann Sullivan, 309 14th Avenue. I'm also one of those who had an assessment of $2,400, now have a bill of $3,100. How was the engineering fees distributed? Did it go on the actual cost of your work, or is it just, what the hell? That's what I would have assumed, and we were never told there would be an additional engineering cost at the time of this. I mean, it's not in any of my original paperwork either.
It is in the ordinance. Again,
Microphone.
back to the ordinance.
Microphone.
I will, again, it was in the original ordinance. I'm actually going to read the section of it. So it says section 6A, the improvement described in section 3A of this bond ordinance shall be undertaken as a sidewalk improvement, and the cost thereof shall be assessed in the following manner. An accurate account of the cost of construction of the sidewalk shall be kept, and the cost shall be assessed upon the several properties fronting on the improvement in proportion to their respective frontage thereon pursuant to and in accordance with NJSA 40:65-1. Thereafter, in subsection 7A, it says the improvement in purpose described in section 3A of this bond ordinance is not a current expense. It is an improvement or purpose that the borough may lawfully undertake as a local improvement, the costs of which shall be essentially assessed in the manner provided herein, which is in proportion with your frontage.
But I still question the engineering fee. How is that?
Because it's a legal cost associated with the
But is it
improvement.
figured on what my assessment was? Is that how they decided who pays?
Is it a percentage?
It
Who
should be.
pays 700? Is it not like divided equally? I mean, there's sidewalks and curbs we're talking about here.
I understand. It should be a portion in a pro rata calculation.
Is there a number somewhere?
Is this fee negotiated beforehand too? This overhead fee?
So I'm just asking you do come up to the mic just for comments. But the question was, how was the calculation of the engineering fees calculated?
Proportionally to the total linear feet that was done in the job.
Okay, so because I had whatever number of feet, I pay $700?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
So
Is there, is that,
the fee
is
is
there,
proportioned.
is that written somewhere?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Can I get a copy of that, or is that somewhere?
Yes, we have a spreadsheet.
Okay.
I can give you the calculation for your particular property.
Okay.
Someone
But should
else's
it be the
property.
same for every property?
It's not the same.
No,
It's
it's
based
not.
on the linear footage of the improvement that was done on your particular.
I know the dollar amount is different, but the overhead rate should be the same, that we calculate
It's
it
not
as
the
square
overhead,
footage.
it's the actual charge to the borough for the engineering fees associated with this project.
The value of the work done on your property. So if the total project cost was $600,000 and your property cost was $1,000, that's the proportion of the engineering fees that were charged to your project. So it was simply based on the value of the work done on your property. So you didn't, it's not really fair to assess everyone the same for the engineering. That's the way it was done by ordinance.
It's just sticks. No one else does that.
Tom Flanagan from 301 11th Avenue. What was the total engineering fees that were charged to the borough for this project?
$192,758.25.
Say that again.
Michelle, 1263 Briarwood.
I'm sorry, could you say that again, please?
1263 Briarwood Road.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Originally, they gave us all an estimate, regardless, linear, cubic, whatever. There is a room for additional work. They gave us the option. We signed a contract for the amount, and now suddenly the amount is higher. Is a contract not a contract?
So the way, hello, sorry. That contract is for the cost of the concrete work that was being done, not the total cost. The total costs are associated with the special assessment ordinance that was adopted in 2016 and 2017.
Which is lovely, but it was Belmar's idea, not the residents' idea. So now we're taking on the Belmar.
And I understand. So the way the special improvement statute actually works is there's ways for a municipality to adopt an ordinance to require a special assessment on all the properties for a specific related public improvement. So it's a way to, borough in 2017 wanted to do it. They could have required everybody opt in pursuant to a special assessment ordinance and impose the cost equally on all residents to repair everything. But rather than do that, it appears, again, I'm speaking just from my understanding of what I've been able to gather, that the ordinance was adopted in the form of an opt-in, opt-out. Now, the people that opted out, I understand that there was a comment earlier of, well, they didn't do anything, they were supposed to have penalties issued. Now, that has been, the borough administration is aware of that. I know it's on their radar, but right now we're just trying to work out what's going on with this assessment with people who did have work performed. We're trying to take notes, and our engineering and our staff is certainly going to be checking out all the properties and say work was performed or work wasn't performed, ensure everything.
Is there any way we, the residents, can file a complaint, or maybe can we all reassess and say we think that this fee is too high, $1,000? I mean,
unfortunately, I can't, and I'm sorry, could we just please kind of stop the chatter, just because I'm sure there are people that want to listen. There isn't really, I can't give you legal advice on how to file a complaint against the borough. Again, we're going back to 2017, if you want to.
that's also, we're also going.
Yeah, no, and I understand. I would be equally frustrated. It's just, right now, it's just trying to pick up the ball that was apparently dropped.
Gene Walmer, 309,000. You said the contract originally included the engineering costs. I understood what you said.
No, sir, that's not what I said.
The whole thing?
No, sir.
It was not in there, it was not in the...
In the ordinance, yes, it's in the ordinance, however, it's not.
So they charged you for the work done, but not the engineering costs. Now you're charging engineering costs.
If I'm following you correctly, no. So the work which was
Sorry to choke you up.
I do apologize. I've been like this. No, this has been brutal. So no, the way the contract that you're referring to, and that's the sidewalk improvement contract, probably looks a lot like that.
Okay.
This was strictly for the curbage and the concrete work that was done. These engineering cost is associated with the special assessment ordinance. Now, the special assessment ordinance is what controls how the fee is assessed against all the properties. This is just in conjunction, so this is just a second factor which comes subsequent to the ordinance itself.
So, but 5 years later, you're charging for costs that were incurred then?
Yes. That's exactly what the borough has to do, because that's how it was bonded for, and that's how they're
So
required
you
to
wouldn't
enforce
pay,
it.
as a municipality or whatever it is, you wouldn't pay the full amount up front. I mean, once they gave you the bill, you wouldn't say, is there any other charges or anything?
I'm so sorry, sir.
Why is there a charge now? That's different.
This charge should have been issued to you in 2017 when the work was completed.
Now, we're in agreement here, we're in agreement so far, go ahead.
And they didn't.
Yes.
So that's when I said earlier, like, I don't want to point the finger, but this should have occurred in 2017, and for some reason, it didn't.
But,
And I understand your frustration. I can't answer your question, because I can't go back in time to yell at somebody and say, why are we not doing this now? Because now we're stuck in between a rock and a hard place, and it has to get done. I understand.
Hi, 510 11th Ave. What was the ordinance number again, when you catch your breath?
If you want a copy of the ordinance, you can pick one up after we're done with the public comments.
Okay, I thought it was
2016-09 and 2017-20.
2016, okay, I have
09.
216.
Yes.
Okay, so I missed a zero, that's what I was looking for, because I couldn't find it, okay. What did you say was the total cost for the engineers? You said 96?
$192,000.
Oh, 192.
500, I'm sorry, $758.25.
So 192, 78?
750.
758.
758, okay. So how many assessments were done altogether? I'm a math teacher, so I'm...
340.
340. And of the 340, we don't know how many were actually done, correct?
No, that's the number that we believe was completed.
Okay, so for those that were not done, I would assume then, in a way, that the assessment is for all of the properties that were done and were not done. Am I correct?
It was for the properties that participated in the program at the time.
Right, but some were not done, for what some people were saying, correct?
Apparently,
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure, I'm trying to figure out how each person was assessed.
each person was assessed based on the percentage or the proportion of the total cost of the project, the total linear footage of the project. Am I correct? The total linear footage of the project is then apportioned to the fee.
Okay, so,
So it's not divided by, it's not 192,000 divided by 340. That's
okay,
not what was done. It was done based on the linear footage of the concrete work, if you will, that was completed under the terms of this agreement.
okay, all right. Just seems a little confusing, but I understand what you're kind of saying, but it's just confusing. I guess because my property was done, I'm just trying to see for the ones that were not done, how is that assessment? Is it, so that's what I wanted to, so they're going to be getting an engineering fee as well? So,
If the work wasn't done, then no.
and they're not getting a fee, because at one point it was, as Mr. Falk had said, if you didn't get it done, there was going to be a fee. We had a certain amount of time to sign that contract, and if we did not, we were told there would be a fee. Am I correct? Okay. So I'm just saying 6 years later, and we're getting the engineering fee now.
I totally understand. I do.
And that $3 to make a cup of coffee at McDonald's.
Sorry.
That does nothing.
So, do the right thing.
There's not a whole lot that I can offer by way of explanation.
Something very important. We did all get a list initially. I know I got a list of every single house.
There's a list attached to the ordinance.
So we'll be able to have a copy of that today of all the houses that were on the naughty list? Okay.
Hello, sorry, I just do want to clarify one thing. The list of properties that are on the ordinance are the list of properties that opted into the special assessment. I do want to clarify, as far as the list of the, I love that word,
The naughty list?
the naughty list.
Yes.
I actually don't know, I've never seen, is there a list?
Oh, I have it.
The only list is the list that's attached to the ordinance, which are the properties that opted into the program, you're right.
But there was a list that went out before that said your house has already been identified.
Okay.
And that was, I call the naughty list. So,
I'm going to get that list.
look for that naughty list.
I want that naughty list.
Okay.
Hi, 106 19th Ave. So my first question is, when the township decided they were going to do this, they were going to float a bond, that was 2013. We put our names on the list, it was posted in the newspaper. Ours got posted twice for some reason, and they never did the sidewalk. So we were on the first wave. Okay. So I went in and I said, when is this going to get done? And they said, well, we ran out of money for the first bond. And I said, what do you mean? Well, they started at the other side of town, and this person would say, hey, while you're here, do my sidewalk. While you're here, do my sidewalk. So all those people, including us, were on first wave at a different cost. Then I said, are you floating a new bond? Yeah, we think so. All right. Now you floated a new bond, but at a different rate. But you never told any of the citizens that were getting it. That's why you have this huge discrepancy.
Again,
We were on first list, so you should address and you should stand by your agreement from the people on the first list. You should never have done Joe Schmo's house next door just because it was convenient. I know it's not your administration and you're dealing with somebody else's headache, but you have to make right for the people who live here. That's not right. The second question I have is, now that you're putting this on our taxes, at what interest rate are you charging us over the 5-year term?
it's a 10-year term, and it's 6% a year if you don't There's no interest you pay.
I understand that, but that should have been in this letter that you sent out. By the way, this is what you're going to be paying. It's like all these hidden agendas that unless somebody brings it up, you don't address it. Did anybody here know that there was going to be a 6%?
No.
That's their MO.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the
It's
letter.
never about the rest.
This says 5 years.
And the ordinance says 10 years, and the ordinance governs. So the letter that went out that said a 5-year repayment period was incorrect. Because the ordinance says 10 years, and we have to abide by what the ordinance says.
I also want to point out that after our sidewalk was poured, I went to the township 12 times saying, how much do I pay? I have the paperwork, I'm going to write a check. 12 times. I don't even live in this district, I live someplace else. Drive in, an hour and a half to get here and say, I'm writing out you a check. No, I can't take it, not unless we have all the paperwork in. That was from 2014.
I understand your frustration.
You keep saying that.
Well,
I want to know what's going to be done other than saying I am concerned.
Well, what we're doing is we're clearing up what was not done previously.
So in essence, you're doing nothing. That's what it comes down to.
Well, I don't know what else we can do at this point now.
Honor people's contracts from the initial list that you gave them.
The ordinance provided for the apportionment of other fees.
Your ordinance is listed as 2016, 17.
I do apologize, I'm sorry. The ordinance, the first initial draft ordinance is 2016-09. The second subsequent ordinance is 2017-20.
Contract I had was with the first bond,
Okay.
which was 2014. So it was before your ordinance.
I'm not aware of
I'm not
the
aware of
2014 special assessment.
That's when they initially put out for the curbing, and I have a letter that went to April during that time. So it was posted in the paper, and that's when it was poured.
So you're not included in part of the ordinance 2016 or
I shouldn't
2017
have been, and some of
improvements?
these people here shouldn't be in that ordinance either. They were part of first bond. You ran out of money because you started at the other end of town, and you gave exceptions to everybody who was there.
Well, that is something that I'm certainly going to have to look into, because this hearing that we're here for today is for the special assessment that was adopted and promulgated pursuant to ordinance 2016.
I understand that.
So what I really appreciate if you could just please write your name and your address, just so, because if it is, then that's something that we're going to have to look into, because if you were on a previous improvement and maybe there was a copy and paste error somewhere along the lines that got dropped
We
over
posted in the paper, we had a list all in the paper.
for the 2014. Well, again, if this is,
It got listed in 2013, first bond.
okay, it's something I want to look into.
Okay, there was a lot said tonight, and a lot of things have come out tonight about numbers and math. So those people who the work was not done and are being charged, that means that the engineering fee should come down. Because how's the engineering charging you $196,000 when work was not done? That was.
May I just respond?
Yes.
You're making a rash assumption here that an engineer certified a project as being complete,
Right.
went and inspected every one of these properties,
Right.
certified and measured the dimensions, and created an assessment tabulation. And now, one person said one property was not done, which Frank and I are going to go and evaluate. Don't make the assumption that every property wasn't done, or multiple properties weren't done, because he and I went out and we inspected, I don't know how many you looked at, but I looked at, after Frank did his initial evaluation, I looked at least 10% of the total number of properties.
Okay, but if there is.
And everyone was done.
Okay, if there is a percentage that would come out of that 196, then everybody else has to be recalculated.
I don't think anything's going to be recalculated, because the assessment of the engineering fees, which are just a total number that the borough paid the engineer to do contract administration, basically, is based on, as Lorraine said, linear feet or square yardage. So the value of the work done on your property divided by the total contract value for the two projects, because there were two, is the percentage that was charged for engineering fees for your project.
Okay, if we pay, which we will pay, in August when we get our bills, there will not be a 6% charge on that. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Don't mistake that. That's for, I believe, I'll use the word delinquency, if the payment is not made as the assessment provides.
And this is going to be a separate bill. Will it be a separate bill in our taxes? Would it part of our taxes?
It will be a separate bill. It's going to be an annual bill, but it's not going to be taxed until August.
September 1st was the date we had. September 1st and September 15th? Okay, September 15th.
So it will be a separate bill.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, don't want to miss that.
Look out on 13th Avenue. I'm on a corner. So when the work was done, and I admit they did it, I called up DPW and asked them if they could put the yellow curb on. They said you have to call the police. So I called the police and told the DPW, and nothing was done. So then I called back the following year. You gotta call the police. I called the police, and nothing was done. Are they gonna paint the curbing yellow where it used to be? Because I'm on a corner. Also, there's, the white lines where you can park.
Yes.
You can't see them anymore. K Street, 13th Avenue down by L Street, and L Street is a disgrace. There's holes. Every time I come back from Florida, there's another hole in the street. So, are they going to do anything about that, down that side of town?
Again, I'm just going to they can't really speak for the administration in terms of improvements, what they're going to do everywhere else. But I will invite you to certainly come to the council meeting next Tuesday, just to relay that to the mayor and council. I know they have a plan for the streets and that they're addressing them. I'm sorry, I forget already the street that you just said.
Case
I will forward
13th, yeah,
I'll forward this to DPW tomorrow morning.
All right, thank you.
I'll forward it to DPW tomorrow morning. I wrote it down.
I just have a clarification question, because you got drowned out where you're talking about interest rates. So can you clarify 0% interest versus 6% interest when they kick in, what the 0% period is? If you can get your mic to work.
If I can get the right, if I can hit the button in the right way. There we go. If the bill is paid in full within 10 days of September 15th, when the bill is due, that'll be your due date, is September 15th. There is no interest.
So the 0% interest period is from the date the town paid and work was done up until September 25th, roughly. If it's not paid, then 6% accrues. How do you break it out? Do you break the payment everyone owes out over a 10-year period and charge it in 10 installments plus 6%?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, sorry. And is the 6% start calculating from September of this year, or is it retroactive to 2017?
September of this year.
My neighbor just asked almost the same question. So knowing that it will not start, the interest rate will not start until what you just mentioned, after September, are we going to have new letters that are going to go out so that people will know in advance about the 6%?
You'll have an annual bill with.
Yes, so what was, for the billing each year,
Yes, okay.
each year for the bill, say around August, lose 25 days before the due date, an annual bill will go out, which will have your annual installment amount, what the interest is, and it will also include a payoff amount for that date if you want to pay off the remaining balance and interest for that date.
Okay.
Each August will receive the installment bill and as well as that total payoff.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure this letter was updated because it does say 5 years on it. So I want to make sure that anyone that is reading it, they'll know that it's 10 years and then the 6% is a big difference.
Yes, it does make a big difference, and again, the initial information within those documents did say a 5-year repayment period, which by the ordinance is required to be 10 years.
Right.
So it's a 10-year payback period.
Right, but if you don't have that updated, you don't know that. So that's why I'm just saying, we have new letters sent.
I don't really understand, because actually that was one of the first things when this brought to my attention. I was like, you guys have an issue here. I don't know why this letter says 5 years. Who sent this? And we're working on fixing it.
Thank you.
What is the rate of assessment? How do we know that our bill is correct?
The assessment is based on the linear footage or the square footage of the work that was done, that was calculated by the engineer and certified thereto.
But is there, do you know percentage, what, a number?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding your question.
How is rate, I want to know, make sure that I'm assessed properly. I want to know that my bill is correct.
Okay, so if you put your name on the list, we'll verify your information, we'll give you a copy of your contract, we'll verify the information of the work that was done, and then then there'll be further explanation as to how the fee was assessed or apportioned.
Real quick, my bill was 12 feet of curb at so much per foot, and then 448 square feet of sidewalk. So you're going to tell me that the engineers, when you guys come out again, or whatever, you're going to figure out, as this previous lady said, that these numbers going to be verified. What was actually done as compared to what I was told was going to be done.
That's correct. Whatever is on that list is going to be verified. If that's not correct, then it'll be changed.
Okay. And finally, what was the total cost of the actual cement work for the 340 properties?
I don't have that figure. I can get it to you. If you let me know your name and phone number or email, you can email me at
What is your name?
Lorraine Carafa.
Lorraine what?
Carafa. Carafa, C-A-R-A-F as in Frank, A, at Belmar.com. And I will get you that information. I don't have it tonight.
Yeah, 316 9th Avenue. I came in late, but the assessment was based on, I just had sidewalks. It's based on linear feet of sidewalks or square footage of sidewalks?
Square footage of sidewalks, linear feet of curb.
Okay. And then, so what was the cost per square foot? For sidewalks?
Okay, it'll be on the original document. You can get a copy of that.
Isn't it the same for everybody?
I don't have that, I don't have that information in front of me, sir. So it would be available within the contract.
I would think that would be something that we would have, you know?
Sorry, there's been a lot of back and forth. I'm sorry, what is that? $2.25 per linear foot for curbing.
Square foot of the driveway was $7, because that was deeper, and then the,
Driveway was $7 per linear, per square foot.
and $3 for the,
Sidewalk.
sidewalk.
$3 per square foot for sidewalk.
Okay.
What's curbing? For the concrete.
Well, then, based on my square footage, it looks like, I don't know, looks like the total cost is about 4 times over the square footage cost.
Okay, again, if you sign your name, we'll be sending out the engineer and Mr. Sinelli to review the accuracy of the figures that we have.
Because $3 a square foot is a very reasonable price for a sidewalk. And I looked at you know, average costs in different areas of the country, it ranges from like $4 to $8 a square foot, they said. So $3 is okay, but it seems like mine is way above that. So unless I got this other assessment, engineering fees that came up so high, I don't know.
We'll double check the calculations, sir.
All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Louise Germanario. My question is, if your mortgage
that's what I was looking at.
actually being paid through your mortgage, and you decide to go with a 10-year program, is it just that we get a bill every year to pay the portion of the 1/10 of the fee, and every year 6% is accrued against the balance of the loan?
Yes.
Okay, so you're gonna have a separate bill that won't go to the bank or the mortgage company, it'll come directly to you?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Again, please make sure you leave your name and address if you would like us to come out and recheck the calculations. That would be very helpful. We appreciate your coming tonight. Thank you.
Yeah.